Hey, we're Morgan World Entertainment, and we're at episode 6 of It. Welcome to Derry. A very, very interesting episode because it gives us information and more reveals that, quite frankly, I was never expecting to get. And one of the things with it is we know Pennywise was meant to be this carny. If you remember from the It movies, we discovered that Pennywise was an actual bloke and he was a part of a carnival and all this type of stuff. There's a lot more to that, and we get the information about that. That it's not so much that is who Pennywise was, it's who Pennywise became. So obviously we know Pennywise came down, he was the fallen star. He took basically this guy's form. He pretty much, by all essence, killed the guy and took his form. And we find something massive out about that. Now, this, of course, is the episode picking up from after what happened in the sewers in the last episode. So everybody's pretty much on edge, and the effects of what happened in the sewers seems to still be affecting everybody. Now, Pennywise is in this episode again, and the episode starts off very interesting. It's a flashback to 1935, if I remember the date perfectly. It's in black and white. Now, we're at Jupiter Hill, which is the hospital. But it's in black and white until you see the balloon. And the balloon is in colours. And then Pennywise's eyes are in colour. The way it was shot and stuff, it was very interesting. It looked great. But we find out, obviously, that Pennywise has been around for all this time. And it's going after people. But the effects from Pennywise is still on them. So you have the kids all starting to bicker at each other. Well, mainly Lily and the black girl whose name I keep forgetting. And Ronnie, I think is her name. Those two are kind of at each other, but Lily seems to be a lot more on edge, to the point that she's holding the shard and she's showing them all the shard and like telling them, hey, look, this thing seems to be afraid of this, and I think we should go back down to the sewers and try and kill it. Ronnie is like, no to this, you know, you almost got us killed once, we're not doing that again. But anytime somebody tries to touch the shard and stuff, like, she refuses and she's pulling away from them all and she's getting aggressive, and it's very much, she seems to be breaking, basically. But then Ronnie gets taken as well to the barracks. Now, what we find out in the barracks, as you remember, the nurse showed up to the barracks, to the Air Force base, to tell Charlotte that, hey, we've a mutual friend here. And of course, it was Hank. She was bringing Hank. So Charlotte hid Hank in the cabin where the Air Force guys, including Dick, have their privacy. And that's where they're hiding him. So Ronnie gets taken to see the father. And now that she sees the dad, she definitely doesn't want to go back down to try and confront Pennywise. Dick is very much affected. And of course, we know that there was the box that was opened, that we weren't sure what was in this box. The orange light coming out of it. We do find out, which I will swing back to. Before Ronnie is brought to her dad, we do have the interaction between Leroy and Will, because obviously Leroy is, you disobeyed my orders, you just went down to the sewers, and because of that, my friend is dead, you know, because he almost shot his own kid and Polly jumped in the way. So they end up, and this is again where you see the after effects of Pennywise towards them, where they're all starting to kind of lose it. That Leroy has an argument down with Will. Will's like, no, I'm not staying here. My friends need me. I'm going to get them. Leroy's really shouting at him like, you know, I have friends too, blah, blah, blah. You disobeyed my orders. And Will says to him, like, yeah, well, at least I didn't kill my friend. Which, obviously, Leroy reacts to by giving him an almighty clatter in the face. To Will runs out, and this is where Leroy really realizes, but you know, this isn't us, this is this thing, it's affecting us some way. Hank is getting blottoed. He's absolutely just, he's getting drunk. He comes back, the guys are all like, hey, where the hell have you been? He's like, can't talk about it. He takes a bottle, he's like, I'm gonna polish this bottle off and catch some Z's. And they're like, yeah, you can't really do that. And this is where we find out that they're hiding Hank. So he goes off to and back into the main barracks, and he's just drunk off his mind. Leroy comes in that he's new orders for him, but he's asking him, like, what the hell did you see down there? You were down in those sewers for hours. What the hell happened? This is where we find out what this box was. So he says he was always able to see the dead and stuff like that. His grandmother had the ability to, but not as strong as him. But she showed him a trick how to hide all the death that he's seeing. And by the way, while he's saying this to Leroy, he sees this dude with like half a head behind him. So he was terrified of seeing all the death. And that's what he was seeing. He wasn't just seeing dead people. He was seeing death and how they died and stuff like that. She basically taught him how to take all those fears and stuff and lock them away. And that's exactly what he did. That's what the box was. It was all the evil, all the hatred, all the fear and pure death in the towns and places that he's been. All in the one box that he locked away so he wouldn't be afraid anymore. And of course, Pennywise got into his head and broke it open. So he ends up having an exchange with Leroy where he's telling Leroy like he has no interest in going after this thing, that, you know, they should leave it alone, that he's pretty sure they pissed it off and all this stuff. Lily is starting to see things as well again, but she goes to the nurse, who, of course, seems to all of a sudden have a bigger role. And this is where we get the massive revelation. So she goes to the nurses. The nurse doesn't answer the door, but Lily goes into the house. She hears music upstairs. She goes up to the attic, and there doesn't seem to be anyone in the house. So she goes over, and she starts opening a photo album. And she's seen photos of the nurse throughout the years. And all of a sudden, she gets to a time where she sees young nurse. I can't remember what the nurse's name is, but we see her with her father. Yeah, you've probably guessed it already. The father is, of course, Pennywise. We also find out once the nurse comes up and says, like, Lily, what are you doing here? And Lily breaks down there. She's giving her a hug, and as she's hugging her, she sees over her shoulder more photos. But one of the photos, she leans out, and it is Pennywise the clown, full makeup. But you can see that it is makeup. And this is where the nurse gives us the information that's like, oh, which is her father was a carny. Her father played the character in the carnival of Pennywise the dancing clown. And then, obviously, he went missing, but Pennywise starts showing back up to the kids. She was the nurse in the hospital that was at the beginning of the episode. You just couldn't recognize her because she looked completely different. I thought she was actually the kid in this opening part, but she's not. She was the nurse. She brought the kid down to the basement because the kid was seeing Pennywise. Pennywise comes out and, of course, talks to the kid. And then, you brought a friend, and looks up, and the nurse is now determined to get her father back. She thinks Pennywise is the father. A lot of things happen. The kid dies. It eats the kid, obviously, but then pops back up as the father to the nurse and said, hey, Buttercup, you know, all you have to do is open the door and let me in. So she's basically bringing kids down to try and get kids to see Pennywise, so she thinks she can get Pennywise back as her father. That's the massive revelation we get here. Now, while all this is happening, of course, Lily is pretty much on her own. The kids are now trying to convince Ronnie to come back with them to go down to the sewers, that they actually do need each other to fight this thing. So they go to the base, and it's funny because I say the base, they're not at this area, isn't exactly on the base, it's just outside the base, I think, if I remember, where Dick and his crew are, because it's their own little private area. They're having like a big shindig, a big kind of, you know, dance and whatnot, and the kids go there, and, you know, Will goes in to talk to Ronnie to try and convince her, and he ends up having a conversation with her and the dad, while Rich, he's a funny little character, this guy Rich, and Marge Verse still standing out, and they go up to the bar, and the guy's giving out drinks, and he goes, "What can I get you two?" And they're like, 2 Cokes, please. And he's like, okay. And you can see him picking up the bottles of Coke, but you can see him picking up a bottle of rum or something, and he comes back and he hands them glasses of Coke, and they enjoy, like, and they're drinking. They're like, "This Coke tastes funny. Like, this doesn't taste like Coke." And he goes, "This is new special Coke for the base." Like, okay. They're like, "It tastes weird." He's getting them drunk, which was funny. But yeah, Ronnie refuses outright to come with them. But one of the other things we find out, and it's pretty much how the episode kind of starts ending, which I kind of forgot to say. When Lily was talking with the nurse, and the nurse was explaining, Pennywise and stuff, she is dressing up as the clown as well. So the Pennywise that they caught in the photograph at the graveyard wasn't actually Pennywise, it was her. The Pennywise that was standing outside Will's house at the tree staring up into the window wasn't Pennywise, it was her. And you're seeing that she's dressing up, trying to get the kids basically to come out to try and get Pennywise. So she's desperate to just try and get Pennywise because she thinks it's her father. So the episode pretty much ends with her donning the suit again. Now, it's not the exact Pennywise suit, it's the earlier version with the white kind of hair wig thing and stuff like that. And we don't actually see her in the makeup at the end, but we see her in the suit. So everything is going to hell. And of course, the cop who was the one that arrested Hank and stuff like that, we find out he's got fired. And of course, there's like groups of people out searching, not just for the kids, but for Hank. And they're all loading up on shotguns and everything else. He comes into a bar where they're all talking, saying, "Hey, we need to check out the old railway and this. Where could he be hiding?" And he's like, no, he's not hiding there. We know exactly where he is. And they're like, "So you're going to go and rearrest him?" He goes, "Well, I can't." And we find out he's been fired. The commissioner fired him. So they're all like, "Well, why are you telling us where he is then?" And of course, while the episode is ending with the nurse getting into her version of Pennywise's suit, we also have that they all arrive, the mob basically arrive to the base. So it's all about to go down with episode 7. So this, another really good episode, a lot more character development. As I said, a very unexpected turn and twist with the whole Pennywise thing. Yeah, this show, I'm digging it. I think it's great. I think all the performances as well, even from the kids, are great. That's saying something. So I'm on board. Can't wait for the next episode. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.